Halo sob, salam kenal. Saya Agus. Ini sob, ada aplikasi yang bisa mendapatkan dolar, yaitu aplikasi baymack sob. Ini saya kasih contoh sob dan kegunaannya. Lewat Google di cari aja baymack, www.baymack.com. Ini hadiahnya, juara 1 $50 sob, juara kedua 5 pemenang ada $5, dan 125 lagi mendapatkan $1 sob. Caranya gampang, cuma nonton video sebentar aja, dan ntar 24 jam kemudian kelihatan hasilnya sob, hadiahnya. Ini caranya bermain sob. Kalau yang belum masuk di aplikasi baymack, login aja ya sob. Di sini daftar dulu. Kalau udah, kita hanya disuruh menonton video aja. Ini masukkan draw sob. Nah, ini ada beberapa video yang diiklankan, kita hanya play aja, nunggu 8
Well, like most major advances in science, it was not believed. It was thought that there must be some fundamental error because, after all, I was arguing that the dogma that was held by senior cell biologists for 60 years was incorrect.
As we enter the 20th century, August Weismann's theory that we age because the cells in our bodies themselves age was finally put to a scientific test. At about that time, scientists for the first time began to culture cells in glass dishes in the laboratory. One such scientist was Dr. Alexis Carrel of the Rockefeller Institute in New York City, the first person living in America to win the Nobel Prize in medicine. About 2 years before August Weismann's death in 1914, Carrel overthrew the Weismann thesis. In this paper, published in 1912, called On the Permanent Life of Tissues Outside of the Organism, Dr. Carrel stated that cells, when separated from the body and cultured in a dish, threw off the restraints of age and could replicate indefinitely, a type of immortality under glass.
The original culture, made from chicken heart tissue, was initiated on January 17, 1912. Over the years, Carrel periodically gave updates on his immortalized chicken cells, such as this report in 1914, where he opens his paper with the statement that, in previous articles, it was shown that connective tissue could be kept outside of the organism in a condition of permanent life. His claims of creating permanent life in cells that otherwise would have died were validated by his increased stature and his Nobel Prize in 1912, the publication of his book, Man the Unknown, and continuing press coverage. If Thomas Edison was the Wizard of Menlo Park, Carrel was the medical counterpart, the wizard of the Rockefeller Institute for Medical Research. The story that took on the status of legend was that he had, through his brilliance, pierced the veil of the mystery of life and death. With his culture medium that functioned as real waters of eternal life, he could destroy the metabolic processes that cause old age. He was said to be on the trail of immortality. As years went by, his system was described in Olympic terms, the immortal chicken cells that lived up to the equivalent of 200 human years. But fate sometimes influences the course of our lives in ways that we could never have predicted. On February 20, 1927, another event was about to capture the imagination of the public. A clever and industrious 25-year-old pilot named Charles Lindbergh was about to attempt a heroic feat, namely a non-stop flight from New York to Paris. Loaded with 450 gallons of fuel in a single-engine plane, the Spirit of St. Louis, he took off from Roosevelt Field on Long Island and began a 33-and-a-half-hour flight. As he was later to relate, he had slept the previous 23 hours, so staying awake turned out to be a superhuman challenge. During the flight, he dodged storm clouds, fought icing conditions, and navigated largely by the stars. He finally found Paris and scanned the landscape from an airport some 7 miles northeast of the city. At first, he was confused by all the lights at the location, thinking it must be an industrial complex. In reality, it was the car headlights of some 150,000 Parisian spectators who were caught in the largest traffic jam in Paris history. His reception in the United States was even more spectacular, and it took him off guard. Lindbergh preferred a solitary life. On December 14, 1927, a special act of Congress awarded Lindbergh the Medal of Honor, despite the fact that it was almost always awarded for heroism in combat. Despite his preference for solitude, he flew to a majority of the states of the Union, appearing before over 30 million people. What the public did not know was that on the 22nd hour of his flight, Lindbergh experienced what he described as a state of suffocation.
Nah, ini kayak pemenang hari kemarin sob, kalau dicek juga bisa. Ini pemenang nomor 1 sob, dapat 50 dolar. Dan di sini ada program juga sob, dapatkan minimal 10 entry selama 30 hari berturut-turut, dan kita pun dapat dolar lagi sob. Tapi satu hari itu minimal menghasilkan 10 entry sob. Dan kalau mau mencairkan dolarnya, buka kado ini sob. Ini kartu hadiah PayPal, itu paling sedikit itu 0,25 udah bisa dicairkan ke PayPal. Kalau yang bawahnya ini harus 99 dolar sob. Kalau ingin mencairkan tinggal tekan menebus aja sob. Aplikasi baymack ini pun juga bisa di-download lewat Play Store. tapi di situ membawa bahasa Inggris sob. Kalau lewat Google kan bisa bahasa Indonesia juga sob. Kita kembali lagi. Tapi gampangnya kita kalau mau daftar atau shop itu lewat Google aja sob, lebih gampang dan bahasa pun kan bisa Indonesia sob. Kalau di aplikasinya akan membawa bahasa Inggris, terlalu sulit lah kalau yang nggak bisa bahasa Inggris. Udah dulu ya sob, salam dari saya, semoga ini bermanfaat untuk kamu sob. Dan jangan lupa di link ya sob videoku. Udah dulu, assalamualaikum sob.